In this video, we're going to talk about how to promote your music for free, because I spend a lot of videos on this channel talking about how to use paid music marketing strategies, but I realize a lot of you might not be at the point where you're willing to invest in your music. Now, I've watched a bunch of videos to kind of make sure I don't repeat what's information's already out there, and a lot of videos mention certain things that I'm just going to get right off the bat. So for example, releasing music regularly, releasing quality music regularly, having all your profiles up to date, like knowing what your brand is and who your target audience is, and packaging your music nicely, like having good artwork and having good videos for your releases, if relevant. So with that all out of the way, let's get into the very first tip, which some of you might be frustrated to hear because it's a true thing, but that's social media. Social media is a fantastic tool that you can use to promote your music if you use it the correct way. Now, with that being said, everything in this list, it's a free marketing method, and everything in the marketing world, really anything in life, is a balance between time and money. So since you're not going to be spending any money in these methods, you're going to be spending a lot of time in all of these methods. There's really no getting around that. So for this one, social media, that's no different. Now, depending on how much time you have, you're either going to pick a couple social media platforms or a bunch to be very active on and dominate on. For most people, I'd recommend picking one or two platforms that you crush on and have a couple others that you're on, but you're more passively on. Right now, TikTok is kind of the jam to grow in a social media presence on. It's just the easiest to grow, period, right now. That might change in a year, but that's the case as the making of this video. Now, in particular, I know a few people that have over 400,000 followers on TikTok, and a whole bunch that are in between, like tens of thousands up to that point. And all of them pretty much say the same thing when it comes to growing their social media presence, and that's just posting a ton of content. I asked every single person I know that has a big TikTok following how they do it, and all of them said they posted between like 3 to 10 times a day for months. So they picked a specific niche that included their music and posted a bunch of content over a long duration to grow their followings. Now, to test that, what I did is I posted 2 videos a day for a week. So I posted 14 videos over the course of a week, and I grew my TikTok following from 300 people to like over 4,000 people just from that effort alone. So if I continued that, I'd imagine to keep going. I just don't really have the time to. So take that for what it's worth. TikTok is a solid platform. Now also there's Instagram, and the rules of every platform are going to be different, but I'll point out some on Instagram. You could post 1 feed post per day. You could post 3 to 5 stories a day and a couple reels per day. And that sounds like a lot of work, but it's just because the platform, really all these platforms require you to post a ton of content just to get enough people to see your stuff. Every piece of content you release is another chance at getting new people. Some of you might be wondering why I didn't mention YouTube. I'm going to talk about that in its own point further down the line. But next we're going to talk about pitching to curators, which is another thing that people hate, but I want to talk about how to do it the right way. In particular, I do already have a video here that you can check out that talks about this to some degree, but pitching to curators can be paid, but it can also be free. Now, you could use SubmitHub. That has free ways to pitch as well. But this also includes just the email DMing strategy. So you're going to find people who have playlists or blogs or have any kind of influence in your genre, and you're going to contact them. And this is a brute force method where, like, out of every 100 people you contact, you might only get 3 approvals onto whatever thing you're trying to do. And that would be a normal number, you know? So, and this is also assuming that you're not just spamming people. This is not about that. This is about like researching the correct places, making sure your music's the right fit, sending them a thoughtful short message, like something they can read in 30 seconds, but has enough information like, hey, I really like your platform. I checked out your blog, and I also really like this artist. I thought my music could be a good fit. Here's the link. Here's the song. Here's the link to stream it. Here's some other links that are related to it. Thank you very much. Times however many people you can find. It's very time consuming, but people have really exploded doing this. It's just a lot of work. Well, the next thing we're going to talk about is collaborations and networking. And this is another thing people hate to hear because usually it's so like vague, collaborate and network. Well, I'll just give you a story of how this actually helped me in particular. I was hanging out on Ruslan KD's live stream. His every Friday does a music review live stream. And there was this vocalist on there that I really, really loved his voice, and I loved the song he was doing. So I found him on Instagram. I hit him up. We talked on the phone. We started working on a song. And now that song is like 750,000 streams on Spotify. So that would have never happened. I would have never had this banging song that really got like blew up my audience on Spotify and other platforms if I didn't collaborate with this vocalist. And he was a significantly smaller artist than me at the time, but I loved his voice. I really wanted to collaborate with him, and I had a more of a reach in terms of marketing, and also had a bigger presence. So it was a win-win for both of us. And over time, we became friends working on stuff, and now we're trying to work on another track. So shout out to you, Adamant. Check him out. My song Chains. Check out Adamant. He has a ton of great music too. And now we're like neck and neck for monthly listeners on Spotify. And that would have never happened if I didn't, reach out, network, and collaborate. And then he also was in a YouTube video once because I thought he had a very good viewpoint on the music industry, and his work ethic was great. So that's kind of how you should think about this stuff. Like, hang out in places where other artists hang out, like forums, Facebook groups, live shows, whatever. Hang out, talk to people, get to know them, see if you can work together, see if you can help each other out. It's not easy. It takes some getting out of your comfort zone, but I think my example is a pretty concrete one of how it can actually help you and the person you're working with. Now, I mentioned live performances, and that's actually the thing I'm going to talk about now. If you're a specific type of music, live performances might make sense, like a rock band, metal band. It's a little harder if you're a producer. So next we're going to talk about something else if you're a producer, but or even, I guess, a rapper. It's kind of depending on where you live. It might be difficult to find venues. But around here, it's pretty much if you're a rock group or a metal artist, punk, stuff like that. There's a lot of places you can play live, and you need to find where people similar to your genre are performing, play with them. And every time you play a show, there's going to be some people who like your music. They'll check you out. They might follow you on social media. They might follow you on Spotify. Obviously, you want to play at the right venues, but you're just like anything else in life, you're going to have to start small. But again, this kind of ties in with collaborating and networking. You might play with a band at a small venue. You might become friends with them. Later down the line, they play at a slightly bigger venue, and maybe they can help you get into that venue as well. But I know I've talked to a lot of people who they've grown their audience with live performances. So if you can do it, it's something to consider. But if, let's say, you're an EDM producer, or you're just a producer in general, that might bring you to do something like remix contests, which is another thing I'll talk about. And this really won't apply to a lot of artists either. But if you can do remixes, entering remix contests is one way that you can get your name out there. And I ran a remix contest like a year ago or so, and for the grand prize, I gave away a $100 Facebook ad campaign that I would pay for and run myself. And I'll put the video here for the results, but the guy got I think he's at 40,000 streams now. It might be more. I'll put a screenshot here so I can show the current stats, because that video is kind of old at this moment. But he won my remix contest, so I promoted his music. And now that's not always how these work, but there's a lot of remix contests happening all around the world at any given time with different prizes involved. And some of them will help you get your name out there, so it's something to consider. Now, if you're a rapper or vocalist or a rock band, you can't really do remix contests probably, but you can do covers. And this kind of leads me on to talking about YouTube in a way, but think about what content you can make that's not like a remix or not a live performance. If you can't do either of those things, you might do covers, you might live stream performances and stuff like that. So try to think outside the box and think of how you can use these elements in a way that works better for you. But let's talk about YouTube. And in particular, this section I've titled Start a Blog, Podcast / YouTube Channel. Because really, which one you choose is just up to your personality. If you're not comfortable being on camera, you're not going to do a YouTube channel. If you are comfortable talking but don't want to be on camera, podcast might be for you. If you're really good at writing, you might do a blog. But if you hate writing, you might do one of the other two. So no matter which one you're doing, basically all three of these things are more longer form content that's posted less regularly. So that's why I bundled them together. You don't want to make it all about your music, though. You really want to think about something that's expressive of who you are as a person, maybe your hobbies, your interests, your passions, but then related to your music in a way. And a perfect channel, I think, of that, I mentioned earlier, Ruslan KD. He's a Christian hip-hop artist that he talks about the whole religious stuff and his worldview and all, everything related to that, in addition to his music, and providing artists that watch his channel with educational value. And it's really tied together in a kind of a brilliant way. And so I think he's a great example of how you can tie in your personal beliefs, your hobbies, and your music all together in one nice cohesive package. He's crushing it on YouTube. So again, I think he's a great example. Other people do podcasts. They might keep it more music, but they'll still infuse the personality. And same with a blog. You might make it more of like a a day-to-day about your life kind of thing, but maybe you're big into videography, you're big into photography, so you're constantly mentioning this stuff, but you're also plugging your music along the way. As usual with this stuff, follow the rules of the platform. If you're doing YouTube, post 1 or 2 videos a week. If you're doing a podcast, probably the same thing, 1 or 2 posts per week. If you're doing a blog, I don't really know the rules for that, but look up how to run a blog and find some videos on how to do that. So I got 2 more tips for you. This one's quick. The next one's a big one. This one, just make your own Spotify playlist or whatever platform is relevant at the moment. I have some playlists on Spotify. Like, a lot of my playlists I grew with Facebook ads, but some of them I grew just by coming up with a cool title that people will search, putting a bunch of great music in it, and just walking away. And then I come back later and there's 1,000 followers in the playlist. If you're doing that, you're going to want to keep in mind that you want to title your playlist something that people might be searching for that doesn't have too much competition. Same with the description. Just like Google has a search ranking index and you use search engine optimization or SEO to kind of get your content higher up in the rankings, Spotify works in a similar way. So I made a playlist, singer-songwriters that make you feel, and I put a bunch of very emotional singer-songwriter music in there, and it just grew over time. So obviously try to make this tailored towards your music. In this case, it didn't for me. I kind of made it at random, and my music doesn't fit in it. But if I did, it would be another playlist I could put my music on. So I mentioned this last one's a big one, and it's more big and it's a long way to explain it. But you might have heard this before. Gary Vee, who, if you're interested in marketing in general, fantastic person to follow, gives a lot of advice for free. So I'd recommend checking him out. But he has a strategy they released a while back called the $80 method, which a lot of people have spun off into their own methods. And a lot of people complain about it because it takes a lot of work and people don't do it correctly and they complain that it's spam. So the strategy is you're going to leave your 2 cents on inside of 10 categories, 9 posts in each. So essentially you're making 90 engagements per day. And then you're leaving your 2 cents. So but basically it comes out to $1.80. It's, you're leaving your 2 cents or your opinion or your comment or your helpful answer to a question on 90 pieces of content a day spread across 10 different hashtags or categories on whatever platform you're doing. So on Instagram, this would involve looking up 10 different hashtags, finding 9 posts in these hashtags that you genuinely like, or you can find people asking questions that you can answer. Of course, everything should be related to your subcategory, your genre of music, and you're going to just be as helpful as possible. You're not going to spam, hey, check out my profile, hey, check out my music. You might see someone asking wow, this is a really cool performance. Does anyone know what gear he used in it? And you might go online and find it, answer that person's question. And then you're going to do this 90 times a day. Or you might just say, hey, I really liked what you did here. How did you do that? And it's just a numbers game. Just like the social media posts, just like the pitching to curators. You do it 90 times a day. 1, you're going to learn a lot about what content actually takes off on the platform. 2, you're going to get a bunch of people checking out your profile. It's going to be a fraction of the total post you did, of course. But you're going to get people coming, and they're in your target market because you purposefully left comments inside of that. So don't spam, leave genuine value, be creative in how you do this, and you'll also learn a lot along the way. And this doesn't actually have to apply to social media platforms. I mean, you could also do this in a Facebook group or a forum, for example. If you're just being genuinely helpful in whatever place you're hanging out that's relevant, people are going to start to consider you as either an expert or a very helpful person over time, and some people are going to check out what you have to offer. I know people who in certain Facebook groups just on a regular basis leave this crazy detailed post sharing some crazy thing that helped them, and they detail it out so they can help other people. And over time, they start getting messaged by people inside of that group being hey, could you help me with this? And this isn't for their music. This is for their music, basically doing music marketing for people. People start to go to them and wow, you're really helpful. Can you help me out? And they start getting work off of it. This works for every industry. I'm not saying go out and spam inside groups, but if you're providing genuine value, people will come to you on their own. It applies in social media, forums, Facebook groups, whatever. So I know this was a ton of stuff, and you don't have to do all of it, especially not all at once. I've done pretty much everything on this list at some point, and I can confirm that all of it does genuinely work. It's just a matter of how much time you put into it and how much effort you put into it. But yeah, whatever you can do, try to do it. If you don't have money, you're kind of stuck to something like this. But even if you can have money to invest in ads, I recommend doing some of this stuff because it's only going to help you when you're already running ads on your content on Facebook ads, Instagram ads, YouTube ads, or whatever. But when you're ready to invest in your marketing, I do have this whole playlist here showing exactly how I promote my music with Facebook ads. And I also have this video here, or this playlist here, for other free music marketing stuff that you can check out. Anyways, thank you very much for watching. I know this was a long video, but I'll see you in the next one. Bye.